Greetings and welcome to another edition of The Pedal Shift Project. The Pedal Shift Project is a series of conversations, thoughts, and experiments around the bike touring lifestyle, from tips and tricks to ideas on how to ride your ride. Let's shrink the world by bike. Show notes and more are available at pedalshift.net/309, and you can email the show at pedalshift@pedalshift.net or text me at 202-930-1109, and check Pedal Shift out on all the socials as well. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 309th edition of the Pedal Shift Project. My name's Tim Mooney. Thanks so much for joining on this edition. First of all, Happy New Year, a belated Happy New Year to you. On this edition, we're going to do the same thing we did last year for the first show of the year. We're going to do some goal setting. This is going to be the 2023 goals for me for the year, and I'm excited to kind of share these with you. If you were with us last year, I gave a little bit of a rundown, a reason why I do the goal setting. And the big deal with that is that studies show that if you set goals, you're more likely to achieve them. That kind of makes some sense. Also, if you write them down, there are higher likelihoods of success for all of those goals. There's some accountability with just even the mere aspect of writing them down. Done that. The big thing, though, is sharing your goal with someone else. So that's what I'm going to do here, which I did last year. Now, we know that I didn't quite hit all of my goals last year, but that's okay. That's the kind of sense of what a goal is. You know, we're shooting for, what is that? Shoot for the stars and you reach the moon or whatever, something like that. These are basically achievable, measurable goals that I would like to hit this year for bike touring. I would encourage you to do this as well in whatever you want, whether it's bike touring or just your life. This is the one area that I do it in. I tend not to do goal setting for any other element of my life. I probably should, but well, we'll just do this. All right. So for 2023, I'm going to do 3 different categories of goals, which is going to be unique to this year compared to last year. And the first is going to be the health and fitness category, which probably is not a surprise to many of you. It is remarkable, the cyclical nature of my fitness, and I'm going to try to break that cyclical nature this year. Finally, again, I'm going to drop the weight. And I've actually already gotten a really good jump on it. I need to lose roughly the same amount of weight I always need to lose, which is an embarrassingly high number. But the thing is that I started immediately on January 1st. After enjoying my bit of fun on New Year's Eve, I decided that it was going to be starting the next day, like so many people do. And I've already dumped a fair amount of weight already in the first week. It's really interesting when you go from basically doing nothing in terms of monitoring your eating and not really including a ton of exercise in your life. It's remarkable how quickly you can kind of get some results. So I've already seen that. That is always really helpful for me psychologically. I'm looking forward to dropping the weight. I'm already well on my way to doing that. Second thing that I'm going to do, and I think this is the key that I've noticed in terms of keeping fit. I'm going to weigh in other words, I'm going to step on a scale at least every other day all year, unless I'm traveling. The reason why I mention this is because I've got a scale that is one of those fancy schmancy ones that Bluetooths to your phone, and then your phone records all of the variables, the weight, the body fat, things along those lines. And that's not the super easiest thing to carry along with me. So I'm going to weigh in at least every other day all year long, unless I'm traveling. And I'm also going to set a weight that is what I'm going to call the get back on the wagon number. That's something that I think is really important. In past years, what happens is, especially after a big summer tour, I tend to go unmetered for a while. In other words, I don't pay attention to my weight. I don't pay attention to what I eat. It's summer. Hey, let's have a few extra drinks. Let's eat whatever we want. Hey, I'm a bike tourer. I can do whatever I want, right? And I think that ends up really creating the problems that leads to the fall. And then all of a sudden it's the holidays and who cares? And then I'm back in January every year going, oh, wow, I have to lose weight again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to weigh in at least every other day all year long, through the year, and I'm going to set a weight number that says, all right, the second I hit that weight, that means I'm going to go back to full on calorie counting, the whole 9 yards. And what I'm hoping that'll do is it will create that ceiling point, which is much, much lower than where I'm at right now. And so that's a kind of combo goal right there. Last but not least, I am going to create a workout plan for really kind of the first time in my life. The building where my office is has a fitness center, and I have literally never been to it because I like bicycling outdoors and all of that. Well, they have some really nice indoor trainers there and a variety of other weights, machines, free weights, things like that. And it's free. It's part of the fact that I work in the building. So I literally have a gym membership that costs me nothing. So I am going to try to get in there at least once, if not a couple times a week, and just hop on the trainer, do some actual working out here now in the winter, which is something that I really typically haven't done. Last year, I used the trainer quite a bit here at the cabin, and that really made a difference. Now I want to take it up a notch. The challenge is that my trainer, and it's the Goblin, lives here at the cabin where I'm recording right now. So I can do that when I'm here, but when I'm in DC, it's always a problem. We live in a smaller space. We don't have a lot of space to do the kind of working out that I would like to do. So I'm going to rely on the fitness center that is in my work building and try to come up with a good plan and stick with it. So yes, a fitness center plan is one thing, but also applying that plan at least for the next few months. The other thing that I'm going to be doing, and I'm in the middle of it right now, and I realized I haven't put it on my list, is I'm going to be doing a dry January and a mostly dry February as well. And the reason is, I'm just writing this down so it ends up in the show notes. This is why we don't include this in the podcast. The reason why I'm doing that is really very simple. Number one, the amount of calories that one gets from drinking alcohol is really stupid. It's just a stupid amount of calories that you get. Even if you try to do some reduced calorie types of stuff, it just ends up being a large amount of additional calories. And it doesn't take that many calories in a day, if you do it every day, to mean that you're going to be adding a ton of weight through the rest of your week, your month, whatever. And so last year I did I do just a dry January? This year I'm going to do a dry January and February, except for one small portion of the month of February. One I will reveal later, probably not a big surprise. And the second is if my Buffalo Bills make it to the Super Bowl. Sidebar, if you pay any attention to American football, you know that it's been a really weird week for those of us who are fans of the Buffalo Bills. If you don't pay any attention to it, one of our players, literally his heart stopped beating on the field. And I was watching the game live, and it was scary. It was crazy. As a young guy, 24 years old, really cool dude. And I think that one of my big takeaways from all of that is, you got to make sure you're living your life. You never know what can happen. And I think that's true in bike touring and life and everything like that. But the reason why I bring it up in this whole dry February thing is if my team makes the Super Bowl, I'm going to set aside my dry February for that, and also for a couple of other days in there as well. So for the most part, we're not going to be drinking alcohol until the beginning of March at the earliest. And I think that that's been an interesting trend I've been seeing. People starting to kind of kick back on the amount that they drink. Some people choosing not to drink at all. I think it's really interesting. Next. Okay, so that's all the health and fitness areas. And you'll notice that there's no specific bike touring stuff in there because this is all really personal around my health, my fitness. I've gotten to be better about going to the doctor and going to the dentist. I've got a few other things that I'm got on my goal list for health and fitness that are a lot more private. So sorry, won't be sharing those with you. But for public consumption, those are all of those. Next up, let's talk about bike touring. Bike touring goals, I think, are really appropriate to share with all of you. And I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. I've got 4 of them. Number 1, 5 multi-day tours in 2023. I think that would be close to my record. I believe that typically I do 3 or 4. I would like to do 5 this year. That's going to mean some additional planning. That's going to mean that I've got to make sure that I get a summer tour in, unlike last year. Odds look pretty good for that. And of course, fall and winter as well. So, I'm I'm planning away on all of that. Things look pretty good for that to be a pretty easily achievable goal, but I'd like to at least hit 5. I think that that's a good measurable, achievable goal, which is a little bit of a reach compared to last year. So that's an improvement, an increase. And when I say multi-day tours, I'm going to say that it's at least kind of a 2-day tour or more. Probably I'd like to make that at least 3 days or more. Why don't we just say that it's a 3-day tour or more? I may have to get some partial credits for if I end up doing any 2-day, just kind of weekend warrior ones in there, but we'll throw those in. So 5 multi-day tours in 2023. Next one, I want to do at least one tour that is 7+ days. So a long multi-day tour that's weekend, full weekend, or some combination of that. It's been too long since I've done something like that. I'd really like to make that happen. I don't have any ride in particular in my head, but there have been a few rides that I've done before that I would love to redo. There's a few rides that are on my list of things from last year and past years that would be 7+ day tours. I think a lot of it just depends on when I am able to fit it in, because that's going to determine it, because that means weather and that means where. So one 7+ day tour I'd like to accomplish this year in 2023. Next one in the touring goals, at least one fully new to me trail or route. So, and I'm going to cage that a little bit, because that might be a piece of the 7-day tour. That might be something along those lines, but I'd like to at least get one fully new to me route or tour in this year. I feel like I got partial credit last year for that because there were new to me pieces of a pre-existing route that I've done, the Empire State Trail, things like that. What I'd really like to do is to get something that's brand new, would be essentially a branch off of an existing route. So in other words, if I rode the C&O to someplace and then there were several days of riding on new to me areas, that would be one. Ditto with a Katy Trail or something like that. I'm just throwing random things out there. But what I would really prefer would be going someplace like the Greenbrier Trail or in West Virginia, or someplace like that where it's a brand new to me route. I'm going to throw the hat over the wall, as the Irish proverb goes, and say I want to do at least one of those this year. Again, I have done zero planning. I have no idea what that would be. Last but not least, this is kind of a fun one. I would like to cross a new state by bicycle. I shared this a few times before. I have crossed a fair handful number of states by bicycle. I've done it in Pennsylvania. I've done it in New York. I've done it in much smaller, less impressive states like Maryland, because you do it at the skinny part. Oregon, of course. I would like to do a new to me state crossed by bike. Maybe it's a little teeny tiny one like Delaware. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But I would like to add another state to that list. Cross a new state by bike. Okay, so those are the 4 for touring. By the way, I'm going to rehash all of these at the end here. Now, I've got a series of what I'd like to call wacky things, stunts, if you will. And maybe not so much stunts, but they're things that are touring related. They probably would end up on the podcast. I think it would kind of depend. And maybe I would do like a little poll to decide whether or not you all want to hear these. These would both involve bicycles, but they would maybe be a little bit more focused on other things. So number 1 is a heavily transit aided tour. You are going to revisit, starting next month, the crazy tour that I did from DC to Boston, where a folding bike was involved, camping was involved, but it was mostly using local transit. I would like to do something like that again, whether it's a repeat of that or doing that someplace else. I'm kind of intrigued with doing a very heavily transit aided tour. Could be out in the Oregon coast, could be in California. I don't know yet, but a very heavily transit aided tour that probably would include bicycle, probably would include camping as well, but to be determined. That's wacky thing number 1. The other one that I would really like to pull off is I'd like to do a microcamper tour again. I am going to keep the car, I think, for at least a few more months, if not maybe a little bit longer, should I not sell the car early in the spring. I would like to maybe revisit the microcamper again. I think I would do it solo this time, so poor Kimberly would not have to deal with it. But it would be something where I would maybe do a little bit of stealth camping with the car, with the vehicle, but also use it as a way to explore places by bicycle as well. So a microcamper aided tour in some way, shape, or form. Again, that is a quarter-baked idea. I have no idea what I would do with all of that. All right, so those are my goals for 2023. Let's go through them one more time. In the health and fitness category, drop the weight. I'm going to also weigh in at least every other day all year, and traveling accepted, and set a get back on the wagon weight. In other words, like a weight, once I hit it, it's like, okay, no more fooling around, back to eating well, tracking calories, things along those lines. That is a goal there. I'm going to create a fitness center plan and stick with it for the gym in my office building. And I'm going to have a dry January and a mostly dry February with a couple of exceptions. That one I've shared, one you will be hearing about relatively soon. The touring goals. 5 multi-day tours in 2023, and we'll define multi-day as 3 days. Why don't we just do that? At least one 7+ day tour as one of the tours of 2023. Another goal, at least one fully new to me trail or route. And I'd also like to cross a new state by bicycle. And for the wacky things, the stunts, a heavily transit-aided tour, maybe where transit is most of what I'm doing, and also a microcamper-aided tour. So that's it. Those are my goals for 2023. We will revisit these towards the end of the year. So I got 12 months to achieve these and in some instances stick with them. This is my accountability. You are all collectively my accountability buddies. So maybe what we should also consider doing is checking in mid-year. I told you on a prior pod, that's what my partner does and tends to work for her. So maybe sometime mid-year, you'll hear more about this as well. All right. I hope that you are all having a great start to your 2023. I'm feeling good about how things are going. I'm feeling good about hitting some of these goals. I'm actually excited about a few of them, and I'm really excited to share them with you here on the pod. And as always, we like to close out the show with a special shout out to the Pedal Shift Society. Because of support from listeners like you, Pedal Shift is a weekly bicycle touring podcast with a global community, expanding into live shows and covering new tours. If you like what you hear, you can support the show for $5, $2, or even $1 a month. And there's one shot and annual options. If you're not into the small monthly thing, check it all out at pedalshift.net/society. On to the society. Kimberly Wilson, Caleb Jenkinson, Cameron Lean, Andrew McGregor, Michael Hart, Keith Nagel, Brock Dittus, Thomas Skadow, Marco Lowe, Terrence Manson, Harry Telgadis, Chris Barron, Mark Van Ram, Brad Hipwell, Mr. T, Nathan Poulton, Stephen Dickerson, Vince LaGreco, Cody Florchinger, Tom Beninati, Greg Braithwaite, Sandy Pizzio, Jeff Muster, Seth Pollock, Joseph Quinn, Drew Porter, Byron Patterson, Joaquin Robber, Ray Jackson, Jeff Fry, Kenny Mikey, Lisa Hart, John Denkler, Steve Henkel, Miguel Quinones, Alejandro Aviles Reyes, Keith Spangler, Greg Towner, Jody Zaranin, Lucas Barwick, Michael Baker, Brian Bechtal, Reinhard Biggle, Greg Middlemiss, Connie Moore, William Gothman, Brian Benton, Joan Churchill, Mike Bender, Rick Weinberg, Billy Crafton, Gary Matushak, Greg Latoile Lopez, James Sloan, Jonathan Dillard, John Funk, Ronald Paroli, Dave Roll, Brian Hafner, Misha LeBlanc, Ari Messenger, David Kropke, Todd Grossbeck, Wally Estrella, Sue Reinert, John Lico, Stephen Granada, Philip Mueller, Robert Lackey, Dominic Carroll, Jackie McCullough, John Hickman, Carl Presseau, David Neves, Patty Louise, Terry Fitzgerald, Peter Steinmetz, Timothy Fitzpatrick, Michael Azuski, Hank O'Donnell, David Zanoni, David Weil, Matthew Sponseller, Chad Reno, Spartan Dale, Carolyn Ferguson, Peggy Littlefield, Lauren Allensmith, Eric Burns, Thomas Pearl, Darren McKibben, Richard Stewart, Dave Fletcher, Jack Smith, Luke Parkinson, Ryan Patterson, Sarus Faravar, John Gardner, and Sam Scruggs. And thanks also to all past and anonymous folks for helping make this show happen. Thank you for joining. You can find Pedal Shift at pedalshift.net for more great bicycle touring content. You can hear the Pedal Shift Project through Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast app. Opening music courtesy of Jason Kent off his self-titled album. The track is called America. Check out his band Sunfield's latest release, Mono Mono, wherever cool music is available.